Hi everyone, I wanted to let you know that I'm really sorry that I can't be with you today. I actually am videotaping this the day ahead of time because while you all are involved in the workshop, I'm going to be just arriving in Cleveland panicking over an academic presentation that I'll be giving at a conference. So I wanted to make sure that you guys had the benefit of hearing some of the things that I've done to prep my course for a full online delivery. And I will go back, and I have watched actually many of the iTunes U tapes of participants in previous workshops, and I will go back and watch everybody else so that I can provide you with some feedback as well on what you're doing and learn from you. And I hope that in the process of talking you through the one objective that I'm going to try and meet in this class and how I'm going to do it, you will also learn something from the techniques that I've learned, the ways that I've used Blackboard, etc. So just so that you know who else is in the room, I have asked Bob Armstrong, who will be at your meeting, I think, tomorrow, and one of my, actually not one of my students, but a student that I know well, Richard Blissett, who is here as my peer evaluator. He's completely clueless because he hasn't actually taken this class yet. And Richard, essentially what I'm doing is I am prepping my public health lecture, my public health course, to present it in a distance format during the winter term. And so I am participating in a workshop with a bunch of other faculty members that are doing the same so that we can share ideas about how to transition learning from a face-to-face style into a distance format. And I would, if you have thoughts at the end of this, I would really appreciate your feedback. So the course that I teach is called The Social Basis of Community and Public Health. It is co-listed in the sociology department and is a major required course for students who are HAP majors, which is the Health Administration and Policy program, which essentially is a public health degree that we offer here for undergraduates at UMBC. So the course that I am prepping, I'm doing completely online during the winter session. In order to prep for that, during the fall term, I have videotaped all of my lectures. I've invited in a number of guest speakers that we have taped, and then all of the lecture slides that go with the lectures are going to be available on Blackboard. And I will talk about, sort of at the end of this presentation, some of the pros and cons that I've encountered in doing that. I have, as recommended by the article that we read, I think it was the article by, was it Frist? Or the 33-page article. I actually have been doing this when I teach this class routinely. The textbook is actually divided into 6 units, or 7 units. And so that's the way I teach the course, in 7-unit systems. And essentially when I teach it live, each unit is a 2-week period of time. Well, in the distance format, the winter session, it is so compressed that every single day essentially represents a week. So I will be doing a unit every 2 days. In order to help the students keep up with that pace, and this is actually something that I've been doing with the class when I teach it face-to-face as well, is I quiz them at the end of each unit to make sure that they're keeping up, that they're coming. It gives them an incentive to come to class, and it provides them incentives to keep up with the reading. So in the past, I had done handout Scantron types of quizzes that were closed book. I have moved from that to offering those quizzes online through Blackboard, where the students know what their deadline is, and so they're given a couple of days following each unit to complete the quiz online. It's open book, open notes, but they are not allowed to interact with their peers while they take this quiz. And so far, this seems to be working fairly well. I am not finding, for instance, that the entire class gets 100s on the quizzes. There are still, there's still some learning that happens actually during the quizzing process. And they get immediate feedback. Occasionally, I work feedback into incorrect questions, etc. So as soon as they submit the quiz, they learn what their grade is, and they get immediate feedback on, they know which questions they got wrong. And if the feedback that I've provided is insufficient, then they're free to come to me with emails or in person to ask questions. In addition to the textbook, I have lots of additional required and supplementary reading. I don't know that anyone actually does the supplemental reading. I don't think they do. But it's provided up there in the event that somebody's doing additional research on a particular topic. And all of those are provided either primarily as PDF files or links to internet sites where there's additional reading, and or some of it is actually videotape. So there are links to things like the Katrina timeline, and we talk about disaster planning, and I have them look at that. And for the online version of the course, there is a video that I will put on Blackboard that they will be required to watch. So the learning objective that I'm going to address today is that students will understand ways in which they can engage their local and national political system to address public health problems. And there are a number of ways in which I'm going to do that. I have my face-to-face class do this, and there will be many similarities in the way that I do that when I teach face-to-face as opposed to when I teach this class online. And there hopefully will be a few differences. So the first thing that they do is they watch 4 documentary films. And fortunately, 3 out of 4 of these films are available online for free. And they're actually very good, well-produced, entertaining documentaries. So they are An Inconvenient Truth, that's done by Al Gore, who in fact won a Nobel Prize for much of that work. Sicko, which is about the fast food industry, and is really an incredible documentary about nutrition in America, but is also a lot of fun because the guy puts himself on, he's the one that does the different jobs. I can't think of his name right now, but he does the different jobs for 30 days, and he's got a whole series that's on cable. But he basically puts himself on an all McDonald's diet for 30 days, and it's very, very funny to watch, sort of that transition that he goes through and the amount of weight that he gains. And then the third documentary that they watch is Michael Moore's Sicko. I'm sorry, the previous one was Super Size Me. So they watch Michael Moore's Sicko, which is his commentary on the American healthcare system. And then the fourth documentary that I've listed is the one that I actually helped work on when I was employed at Hopkins, and it is on the use of reproductive genetic technology, and I will actually upload that video for students to watch. Students, after they watch these videos, respond to the film by writing a very, very brief review. And those are graded with a grading rubric, and they are turned in before the class participates in an open discussion about the documentary. And of course, in class, we sort of do it as a group. And so when I do it online, the students will not only have the opportunity to reflect on the film in writing, they'll have the opportunity to view the discussion that took place in class with the fall group of students, and then they will sign up for a discussion that's either in some sort of online chat, live chat format, or video conferencing or telephone conference calls. I haven't quite figured out the technology that I'll be using for that. But I have set the cap for this class, the distance version, at 12. And I anticipate having 3 different opportunities for people to sign up because I want to maximize the amount of flexibility. And so we're talking about a discussion group with 4 students with me as a facilitator. And I actually think that that's going to really enhance the learning experience because with such a small group, they'll have to be engaged. So the next thing that I have people do is read provocative articles on topics related to public health. So we talk about the new smoking policy on campus at Maryland or Montgomery College, where it's a completely smoke-free campus. We talk about many of the policies related to the vaccine, the HPV vaccine, the human papillomavirus vaccine that is being recommended and in fact mandated in some states that teenage girls receive. And we have a dialogue about it. And I will do what, can you keep the students out for now? Can you guys stay out for just a few minutes? So the students will do exactly the same thing online, where they will read the articles, they'll watch the dialogue that took place in class, and then again have an opportunity in a small group format, either through the discussion forum that's offered through Blackboard or in some sort of live communication tool to participate in discussing those issues. So then the other thing that I have done this term that hasn't been quite as successful, in part because the class is so large, the fall class has got about 40 students, is that I have required them to engage in a public health issue in some sort of way politically. And so what I have done in the class is I have found issues where organizations are looking for students or individuals to sign petitions or support some sort of public health cause. So one of the things that we rallied around this semester was the mental health parity law that was before Congress. And I presented these issues and students had to respond to at least 3 of them. But it turned out to be a very passive process, in part because it was just very difficult for me to engage this many students. So they did things like sign petitions, registered to vote, joined a group, commented on an article. For instance, if there was a newspaper article and there was a place where they could write comments, they got credit for doing that. When I do this online, in part because it's a smaller class, I hope to engage the students even more as active learners. And instead of me posting things that I find of interest, I hope that the students will actually be out there engaged in reading the newspaper, looking for issues in their community that are related to public health, and submitting them, getting credit for submitting them, and then getting credit for responding to what their peers have posted. So for instance, if their peers post something about a petition that's going around to increase physical activity in public schools, that we will, as a class, sort of engage more of those issues. And my goal is to help the students see how easy it is to write emails to their local representatives, their national representatives, and speak out on issues around public health that are important to them. The tools that I'll be using or enhancing the use of from what I've done with my face-to-face teaching is using the discussion board more, because in reviewing some of the presentations that other faculty members have given, that appears to be a really terrific tool that I think I've underused. In this sort of public engagement, I'm hoping that I can get students engaged in participating on public blogs or using Facebook in a way that's sort of more politically active, that helps them speak out on causes that they're interested in. And as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, sending emails showing them how easy it is, how many organizations have made it incredibly easy to contact local and national representatives on issues that are important. So the primary next steps that I need to take in order to fulfill not only this objective, but also have a high quality product for the distance students are quality control with the videotaped lectures. So one of the things that I've noticed in going back and looking at my own lectures is that I tend to spend like the first 10 minutes of class just answering questions and giving announcements. And I want to edit those tapes so that the distance students are not irritated by having to sort of pick out what the relevant information is. I'm going to retape an intro that speaks specifically to the winter students. I want to become more familiar with a lot of the live chat tools that are available. I have a Mac, and so I can use iChat, but I know that many of my students will not necessarily have that tool, and so I want to learn sort of what the other tools are. And then finally, I'm going to continue watching the other faculty presentations on iTunes to see what's working for them, and following up on some of the websites that on Distance Ed that have been made available to us through Blackboard for this workshop. And then finally, I mean, a lot of it's just going to be troubleshooting. It's going to be trying this out. I'm keeping the class small because it's sort of a pilot program, and I'm going to see what works and what doesn't work. So with that, I'd love to get any kind of feedback that you guys might have for whether you think this is going to be an appropriate way to engage these students in these issues.
Yeah, I think it sounds good to me. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do in a real short period of time. I had questions about the videotapes, but you said you got a source for those to get those up and so that they can see those, the ones, the 4 that you were talking about.
Oh, right.
Those
2 of them are online.
Sounds like you've got access to those. The live chat tool, we have a tool called UMBC.
Yes.
Which is inside of Blackboard that works very well.
Fantastic.
That might be a good chat tool for you. It's called there's one called Live Classroom in there where you can actually hold a class online.
Wow.
So that would be really good. But we can sit down. You know, we can get together and talk about those and kind of fine tune that a little bit. But it sounds like it's well thought out, and you know, you got all your bases covered.
To it.
Yeah. I'd say it sounds good.
Okay.
You know, just like you say, it just needs a little fine tuning and. Yeah. You know.
Richard, in your opinion, do students know how to use Blackboard tools?
You know, when I was taking genetics, especially, people use the discussion board a lot. And I remember when I took computer science, we were actually graded saying we had to have at least, I think, 3 responses on the discussion board, but they had to be like more than 1 word answers. Like, yes, I agree. So I was just wondering, like, are you going to be actually reading all of them and making sure people are actively saying something as opposed to saying, what they said is right? So.
Yeah. And the only reason that I think I can do that is because it'll be a much smaller class.
The other thing that works well is setting up some kind of rubric for what kind of answers that you want. Okay. And I don't know how you're going to grade those. Are you going to grade by participation?
Basically.
One thing that a lot of faculty have done is have students pull out their best posts and submit those posts to you for grading, rather than having to go through the entire discussion board and all of the posts that are in there. Have them pull out the ones that they think are the best that they've contributed, and then have those graded as the participation grade in the discussion board.
Okay. Sounds great.
It's just a thought too.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds terrific.
Okay.
I got a class I can hear them out there, so I hope everybody has a great workshop tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you guys in November.